Hey guys, it's Ryan Price. Welcome to the Win Crew podcast. Today, we are going over how to start and scale a real estate business. And with me is Queen Bee, Emily Davis. Emily, as you know, none of us were born into real estate. Emily came from a fitness background. She jumped into real estate head first, and she's just been killing it. So you're a fantastic example to everyone that you're around, your work ethic. And that's why I think our listeners will take a lot from what you have to say today. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in real estate and what you're doing before that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Honored to be here just to chat about it, my journey a little bit. So like you said, I was in the fitness industry. I had been doing that for several years. That's what I went to school for. I was actually an exercise science major. I had truly zero business experience, had never taken a business class, had never really had a business related job. So this was very out of left field per se. I knew a couple of people on the team, obviously knew Tony, knew Alex. And honestly, they just approached me about making a career change. I was interested in a new job, but not necessarily a field change. So I was open to hearing what they had to say. And it truly was just one of those moments that didn't make a whole lot of sense, but just felt like this is what the Lord was telling me to do. And so made the change, did kind of a part-time transition between fitness and real estate, and things got moving pretty quickly. So I was able to, jump over and make that full-time change.
That's awesome. So when you talk about the fitness industry, were you training? Were you like one-on-one? How would that, explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a little bit of everything. I did a lot of personal training one-on-one. I have some nutrition certification, so I did some nutritional coaching as well. Did some workshops and seminars with nutrition. I taught a lot of group fitness. And then I managed a gym here in town a while back while I was the fitness manager. So I was in charge of a lot of classes and personal training and things like that. And then actually before that, I was in Nashville and managed 6, I believe, assisted living or nursing home facilities. So I did all of their health promotion and health content as far as classes and education and all that.
So you do have a little bit of business background.
A little bit,
Even
yeah.
though you don't think of it that way. I mean,
I guess that first job could have been a little bit of that. So
for sure. I mean, especially with your one-on-one coaching or that training in the fitness industry, you kind of had to develop those relationships with those people,
absolutely.
Which you can draw some parallels with that and in real estate. So transitioning from a job like that into real estate, everybody's going to have their own hiccups. Discuss, let's pick 2 of your largest challenges when you first started in real estate industry.
Gosh, I would say probably, I know it sounds a little bit silly, but one of the biggest challenges was just going to an office-based job, not being physically as active every day. That was definitely a change. Just, I say the pace of the job. I think real estate is very fast-paced in a lot of ways, but just my physical environment was a big change for me because I'd never had any kind of office job before. But in the same breath, I kind of love that about real estate because no 2 days are the same. I'm not sitting at the office every day. Mm-hmm. So I would say that was probably the biggest thing. The biggest, change or transition point. I would say the other part, maybe again, just being more immersed in business, just the language of business, sales, all of that. I just didn't feel like I had a whole lot of experience there. Yeah. So a learning curve for real estate specifically, but then also just being in a different field in general it just felt like a lot of new all at once.
For sure. So what did you do to make yourself more comfortable? Did you take any certain steps or did you have to overcome any certain hurdles personally or professionally to kind of jumpstart your career and going in the right direction?
For sure. Great question. And really the thing that I kind of keep coming back to with that is mentorship and just kind of following in people's footsteps. I was super fortunate to have Tony and Alex both as great mentors for my business, and then to be able to watch their business too, and then take little pieces of it, create my own kind of style of business and kind of blend the two together. So I think that was huge with not only having their help, but getting to just kind of be a fly on the wall for everything that they did in their business. They were both still big in production at the time. So that was huge for me. And just being a sponge, soaking it all in and realizing that they had already kind of created the wheel. I didn't need to reinvent it. I just needed to buy in and just kind of follow along what they've already created.
Yeah. And we'll touch on this a little bit later, but everything's kind of come full circle now because you're the person that people watch. You're the person that people just try to absorb as much knowledge from, and you're mentoring, you're coaching.
Sure.
So it's awesome to kind of hear, everybody starts out with not a lot of confidence. Your business is got ground zero, but you can get to a point where you're actually sharing that knowledge that you've gained with others and helping them grow.
Absolutely.
I know it's huge for me. I know it's huge for you to watch other people in the industry flourish just by sharing your knowledge.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that mentorship. So what does a new agent need to know to break into the business and become successful more quickly than someone else, say?
Oh, the $1 million question. I think number one, you need to know that you don't know hardly anything, and that's okay. That's why mentorship is so important. There is a lot to learn in real estate. I think that's a misconception. I think people think that real estate is quick and easy, and to do well at it and to be successful, there's a lot of layers and a lot of details. So I think number one, understanding that it's okay to start at the bottom and it's okay to really lean into mentorship and coaching because there is so much to learn. So I think that is definitely the biggest part, is coming to terms with it's okay to not know and being okay with asking and, getting some help for sure.
Yeah. And you're right. You start off, you don't know anything, but we have so much technology at our fingertips, and whether it be reports or whatever, talk a little bit about ways that a new agent can sound knowledgeable just by using X, Y, and Z technology to help with their clients.
Of course. Absolutely. I think social media is a very easy, quick way to build a business and build a brand. A big perk of being on a team is having everyone else's success and listings and accomplishments to be able to help celebrate and push out there. It may not be your direct story, but you're part of the team. And so that's your story too, in a way. And so building on that as far as, creating that image on social media that you are, maybe you are starting out, but you are really working every day to, again, lean into the mentorship, get your feet wet, build your educational background, sharing that with people that you are really serious about figuring out what you don't know and kind of filling in those gaps too. So I think social media is probably the quickest and maybe easiest way, to do that, especially when you are fortunate enough to have people around you that are having that success that you're chasing. Yeah. And you can kind of use that as your platform to build.
Right. And to kind of go along with that, we have, whether it be market reports that we receive each week, using the MLS, RPR in our area. And even though you don't know things, we have the technologies where you can find the answers pretty quickly. So I think for a lot of listeners, if you don't have, your fingertips or your fingers on the pulse of the real estate technology that's out there, especially getting going, you can really talk to someone and provide facts without knowing a lot right off the bat. I'm not saying fake it till you make it, but you can always use that technology to kind of boost your spirits when you don't know the exact right answer.
Absolutely.
Okay. So as far as, you're awesome on social media. You kind of have your own look, your own brand. Tell me how you got to where it is right now. Like where it started. For me, I didn't have social media until I got into real estate. I feel like as an agent, I had to have it. I still feel super uncomfortable, but I know how much that can do for a business. So talk to me like A to Z, like how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Absolutely. So, I had social media before I started in real estate, but it was purely personal. It was never business. So that was a little bit of a hurdle for me to get over, was becoming comfortable with a blend of personal and business. But then also in a sense, kind of creating a business identity that's separate from my personal life too. So for me, that transition started and really kind of took off. I just started doing more market research. So I started following people, paying attention to people on social media that had a very recognizable brand. They had the success that I was chasing. And so I just started following those people and seeing, what did their content look like? What's their visual like? Even things down to, colors and graphics and things like that. And again, kind of like mentorship and coaching, it's, I'm following all these other people and then I'm kind of meshing all that together to create my own brand. So that's where it started, was just really diving in on social media and watching what other people were doing. And then kind of creating a vision board in a sense of what I wanted that to look like for myself, pulling little things from other people, creating my own vision board. And then really a huge key for me has been finding somebody who's a lot better on social media than I am. That was an area of my business that I knew more than likely I was not going to excel at. And I was totally okay with outsourcing that. And so I have Autumn, who is an expert in that field. And I am all for finding the areas of your business that somebody else can do it better than you can. I felt like I could put my time more efficiently into something else than social media and give that project to somebody who really is knowledgeable on it. And so that has absolutely been the biggest game changer, is being able to figure out what my vision is, but then express it and share it with somebody else that can really take it to the next level.
So how do you know what the mix looks like? So you want people to see Emily Davis as a rock star agent, but you also want to see Emily Davis as a human. So tell me, how does that mix work? What is the formula that you like as you're sprinkling in personal into your business page?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, I just turned 30 last month. Oh gosh. And so as I've gotten older, I feel like the ratio has changed a little bit. So in my first couple of years in real estate, I felt like it was more personal than business. And now that I actually have a personal brand and a business, it's easier for that to dominate a little bit more. I think in my mind, it's like a 75-25-ish. I really have worked hard to create a recognizable brand and a name that a platform can be built on. And so I really want to use that. But like you said, I think it's so important that people know that you're human, and so much of my business these days comes from my sphere and past clients. And so it's important that I am still my authentic self, because that is where a lot of my business is coming from, is people just know me as a person. And so I think for me, like I said, it's about 75-25. More than the majority of what's on my page and platforms right now is business. But Autumn does a really great job of, she knows who I am personally. She's not just a social media manager. She actually knows what I value. And so she's able to sprinkle that in. We actually had a little bit of a vision meeting earlier this year where we just talked about me personally. Like, what are some things that are just really important and on my heart right now? What
are those your favorite conversations to talk about what's important to you personally? Just Emily?
No.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Not always. Sure. But I did love the approach that she had, because, it's kind of one of those, like, what season of life are you in? What's at the top of the value list right now? So that when she does sprinkle in the personal, it really is personal. It's not just the generics, it's what's happening in my life right now. So yeah. I think it's important that whoever is managing your social media, whether that's yourself or somebody else, that they're really in tune, quarterly meetings, annual meetings for sure, but quarterly, maybe even monthly, just to make sure that the vision is staying up to date too.
Yeah. So obviously social media is super important for somebody breaking into the industry or starting to build a business. What kind of things can they do, like face-to-face, rubbing elbows? What would you recommend as far as like community involvement, what that looks like for somebody breaking into the real estate industry? Absolutely.
So important. I'm going to start not quite face-to-face, but I am along those same lines. I'm a huge fan of handwritten notes and note cards. So that's a big part of my business. So even if you're just starting there, just to start a conversation with people, have initial conversations, sending out handwritten notes, letters, postcards, whatever it may be, to everybody in your sphere. And then anybody new that you're adding to your sphere continually. Anytime you meet someone and add them to that sphere list, they get a handwritten note. Community involvement, I think that looks a little bit different for everybody, just depending on what your interests are. But I think that can be everything from, more of a formal setting to even just like intramural sports, if that's what you're into.
Going to church.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Going to church, community service, working at curbside, or it can be the Lions Club. I think that it has to be something that's natural for you. That's the most important thing to me, is it's got to be a setting that you feel comfortable in, because that's where your sphere is going to grow the best, because it's just going to flow, you know? So figure out what your interests are and how you can do those interests with other people around. and that'll bring you the most success.
Yeah. And you're big into FCA, correct? Are you on the board?
Yes.
Okay. I thought so.
I am.
So,
yes.
I know you didn't join FCA to grow your business. That's just something that's a passion of yours. But when you are involved in something like that, like you're not making asks to those people that you're meeting every day. So how can you stay in front of them as an agent and Emily Davis without like asking them, hey, let me help you sell your home?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. And I think that's where my business has changed a lot with social media because I've kind of let the brand recognition do the talking now. Like I can just be Emily Davis and then I let things like social media kind of fill in the gaps of what I do professionally instead of having to talk about that so much face to face with people. So that's been a huge goal of mine is that instead of having to weave real estate into every conversation, the brand recognition is just kind of already there. Mm-hmm. Again, I can be Emily Davis and then via social media and the numbers that my business produces and the Win Crew too, that, that kind of takes care of itself in a sense.
Yeah. So you're to the point now in your business where the majority of it comes from referrals or past clients. So how did you get there? I mean, a newer agent is going to have to feel the grind of, calling what we call the pond is people that may be very lukewarm in their journey of buying a home or selling a home. So that's obviously where I'm sure you started, but what did it take to get to basically referral-based business, and how much did that take off of your plate and just relieve you of so much, work really of not cold calling necessarily, but prospecting your butt off every day?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of one of my favorite things to talk about because it was a big goal of mine last year. My business was to get to the place where I was no longer using any kind of lead. I wanted to get to the place where my business was sustained by referrals or past clients. And so that was kind of a goal to get to the end of the year. And, starting this year, I was able to do that, which has been huge. I think a couple of things early on that helped me do that. And I will kind of preface this by saying I was fortunate enough to be able to do these things based on my season of life. I'm married and we don't have kids yet. So I could really go all in as much as I wanted to.
Dog, though.
Yeah, you have a sweet puppy dog. Check out my Insta if you haven't seen her yet. I was fortunate enough to be able to do those things. Did I learn some hard lessons about not creating boundaries? Absolutely. But early on, I was a yes man. That was advice that Alex McCubbin gave me in one of my first few months of real estate was say yes to any and everything that you can. And so I tried to do that as far as experience, but then also just building business as quick as I could. And then I think the other thing was consistency. And it wasn't consistency in anything major. It was small little daily things that I was committed to doing and just keeping promises to myself. Mm-hmm. I'm a big proponent of that. Follow me on socials. You'll catch that very frequently. But little things like, adding 5 people on Facebook every day, sending 5 handwritten notes a day, having 10 conversations a day, adding 3 people to my sphere a day, things like that seem very small in the moment, but the buildup over time is astronomical. And so I think, again, consistency with those small daily tasks, being disciplined, and then, being willing, being a yes man, knowing that that's not forever, but being willing to really grind it out for a short amount of time to just kind of get the ball rolling. Yeah.
And you still grind it out every day. And so many of those things you just mentioned, whether it be handwritten notes or adding people on social, you're still doing that. Yep. So the train's still moving. I think a lot of people are good at setting goals, but not necessarily achieving their goals.
Yeah.
But I think that what you talked about, the discipline that you have and that you've shown, has helped you with your goal setting, but also achieving those goals.
Well, I think the work, you said this earlier and it's absolutely right. The work hasn't necessarily lessened. It's just transitioned to a more enjoyable task personally. And that was my goal was, originally early in my business, the work was cold calling and it was, doing the showings at 7 p.m. on a Friday night or 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning because that's what people wanted. It was making 30 phone calls a day and getting 2 people to answer or whatever. Now, the time and the energy that I spent doing those things, I get to spend in nurturing my past clients and creating a annual touch plan where I can nurture everybody that I've worked with in the past 5 years or, nurturing my sphere. Like those things are just so much more enjoyable for me. So it, not necessarily that the work has lessened, but it's transitioned to a much more enjoyable, much more fun, kind of project per se. So
what do you do with those past clients and, your sphere? What do you do annually? You mentioned you kind of build out a plan. Give us an example of something you do annually now.
Yeah, absolutely. Super passionate about this. I love past client cultivation. It's awesome to see when you put in the energy into this, what it produces. So every year I have an annual plan built out, so an activity, something that happens every month for these clients. That could be everything from a call to check in with them on their home anniversary, just congratulating them. Hey, I can't believe it's been that long. How you guys doing? There's multiple either handwritten notes or postcards throughout the year. Some of those include like home maintenance tips or offering free home valuations, not because I think they're going to move, but just because, hey, you want to see where you stack up in the market. Even, more fun, I guess, maybe than that is, we have like our annual Halloween event. That's a huge event for my past clients, getting to invite all those people out and be face to face with them. And then doing the pie delivery is always, in my opinion, the best past client event of the year. We, hand deliver pies to every client I've ever still here at Bowling Green. And so it's a big mixture of finding that balance of things that are, number one, they're just genuine and personal. Like, hey, number one, I appreciate you and I really do care about you as a person. Number two, they're educational. There's got to be things I want to hear about. Number three, I've got to ask for the business at some point. That's usually every 1 out of 4 or 5 touches. And then something that's face to face too. So it's a good mixture of a lot of different things.
And the things you kind of rattled off there, nothing's expensive. It's not like you're throwing a bunch of money out of your pocket to do these things. It's really just the time and being a good person and really caring about your clients, which is why, you've kind of made that circle back around to, hey, most of my business is referral based.
Sure.
I'm sure the pies help.
Do help a little bit.
How many pies did you deliver last year?
Oh my gosh.
Give me a number.
It was over 100. I'd say it was, I don't know, maybe 125, something like that.
How long does it take?
It's 2 full days. Well, I had a little help last year. Autumn was a literal queen when it came to pie delivery, and it took her and I think 2 full days of 10 or 12 hours.
Wow.
So.
It's awesome, but I'm sure it's fun too.
It is.
And
it really is.
Seeing the smiles on people's faces and obviously, getting to reconnect with those past clients.
Absolutely.
Emily, this has been great. Let's start wrapping things up. A couple of key takeaways. I'm going to give a couple that I think that the listeners should hear, and then I want you to add to it. But I think one thing is the consistency as you're getting going in the real estate industry, having a plan. We talked about owning your mornings and just doing it on a consistent basis. And then second, I think that your nurture plan and keeping in touch with clients, I think it's super easy to get to a closing table and kind of breathe that sigh of relief and kind of forget that how important it is to keep in contact with those people. And they may not want to hear from you once a month, but when it's time for them to maybe buy or sell a home, or they have a friend, we want to make sure that they remember us as their real estate agent.
Sure.
I don't remember the exact number, but there's a huge percentage of buyers and sellers that can't even tell you their last real estate agent's name.
Crazy.
And you mentioned Alex. Alex loves to say, it's not their responsibility to remember we're in real estate. It's our responsibility to remind them that we're here for them all the time.
Absolutely.
So give us one more thing for somebody that's wanting to start in real estate, and then one more thing to help them scale quickly.
Okay. So one thing to just kind of think about as you're getting into the business. Great question. I would, I'm going to go back to what I talked about as far as making commitments and keeping promises to yourself. If you're not willing to keep a promise to yourself, what does that say about how you're going to treat other people? Mm-hmm. And so I would say really take a hard look. If you're about to get into the industry, or if you've just gotten into the industry, really ask yourself, am I willing to be committed to the things that I've said I'm going to do? I personally really do think that's the difference in people that are successful and not. Accountability is so important. We all have to have it. The external accountability is great, but it's got to start. It's got to start with you. If you're not willing to do it yourself, nobody else is, going to make you. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink type thing. And what was the second?
Scaling. So let's say someone's been in the industry for a while. Maybe they feel like they're hitting their head on the ceiling. How what's one or two things that they can do to really ramp it up and break through that ceiling they may feel like they're hitting?
Absolutely, great question. I would say number one, I kind of touched on this with social media, but outsourcing areas, coming to terms with the fact that you're not going to be an expert in everything, figuring out maybe your top one or two areas that could produce the most business if they were done correctly, and being okay with saying somebody else needs to own that because they can own it better. And that can mean a couple different things. That can mean that you get to take a step back and maybe you're chasing a little more time back, or that could mean that you get to put that time and energy somewhere else more efficiently. So I think that transitions differently for everybody. But I would say, being okay with outsourcing things that you're not great at, and then figuring out in kind of a different route of outsourcing, what are some tasks that can be given to somebody else so that you can work on other tasks that only you can do. If I can get help with showings or I can get help with paperwork, that gives me more time to actually go on appointments and be face-to-face with people, because those are only things that I can do. But there's plenty of other things that I can give to somebody else that they can do just as well.
Right. Fantastic advice. We know you're huge on social media. Tell the listeners where they can find you.
Ooh, I think it's at Emily O'Connor Davis, if I'm remembering right. Catch me on there, Emily Davis Realtor on Facebook as well. Be sure to check both of them out. Obviously, we're all over the Win Crew page too.
Right. That's awesome. Emily, thank you so much. Listeners, the next podcast coming up on the Win Crew podcast, we're going to be talking about the mastering the art of negotiation. So we're really looking forward to that. Make sure you like and subscribe and listen on your favorite podcast networks. Until next time, we'll see you later.